Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling smaller than when you entered it, yet struggled to explain why? Have you ever questioned your own memory, your own kindness, or even your own worth because of someone else's words? The most dangerous people rarely announce themselves. They do not arrive wearing the face of cruelty. They often arrive smiling, speaking softly, offering comfort just long enough to earn your trust before quietly rewriting your confidence one moment at a time. Their greatest weapon is not anger. It is confusion. They make you apologize for things you never did. They make you carry burdens that were never yours. They convince you that your kindness is weakness and your boundaries are selfish. Before long, you begin fighting battles that exist only because someone else planted them inside your mind. The tragedy is that manipulation is rarely loud. It hides inside compliments with conditions, concern that feels like control, affection that disappears the moment you refuse to obey, and silence that becomes punishment. Many people spend years believing they're the problem because they have never been taught to recognize the quiet fingerprints of emotional manipulation. They keep giving more, forgiving more, sacrificing more, hoping that one day love, patience, or loyalty will finally be enough. But manipulation has an endless appetite. The more you surrender, the more it demands. It does not seek partnership. It seeks power. It does not celebrate your growth. It quietly fears it. Today, we are going to uncover 4 hidden signs that reveal when someone is slowly trying to take control of your emotions, your confidence, and your sense of self. These signs are subtle enough to escape your attention, but powerful enough to shape the direction of your life if left unnoticed. Once you learn to recognize them, you will begin to see people with greater clarity. You will understand why certain relationships leave you exhausted instead of energized, anxious instead of secure, doubtful instead of peaceful. Most importantly, you will discover that protecting your peace is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of wisdom. Because the moment you recognize manipulation for what it truly is, you stop becoming someone else's puppet and start becoming the author of your own life. Manipulation rarely begins with obvious cruelty. If it did, almost everyone would recognize it immediately and walk away. Instead, it often arrives dressed as kindness, concern, charm, or even love. A toxic person understands that trust is the doorway to influence, so they patiently earn your confidence before revealing their true intentions. They know that people are naturally drawn to those who listen, encourage, and make them feel valued. That is why the first stage of manipulation is often pleasant. You may feel understood, appreciated, or even grateful that someone seems to care so deeply. But beneath that warmth, there may be an invisible desire to gain control rather than build a healthy connection. The danger lies in how slowly this control develops. It does not happen overnight. One small comment here, one subtle criticism there, a joke that feels slightly uncomfortable, a compliment followed by a condition. None of these moments seem significant on their own, yet together, they begin to shape the way you think about yourself. You start wondering whether your opinions are valid. You hesitate before making decisions because you fear disappointing the other person. You begin seeking their approval instead of trusting your own judgment. Without realizing it, your confidence is no longer your own. It has become dependent on someone else's reactions. A skilled manipulator rarely demands obedience directly. Instead, they create emotional confusion. They may praise you one day and ignore you the next, leaving you wondering what changed. They might make promises they never intend to keep, then convince you that your expectations were unrealistic. If you confront them, they often redirect the conversation until you end up defending yourself instead of discussing their behavior. This constant uncertainty keeps you emotionally off balance. When your mind is busy searching for answers, it becomes easier for someone else to shape the narrative. One of the most invisible tactics is making you doubt your own instincts. Deep inside, you may sense that something feels wrong, but the manipulator always has an explanation that sounds believable. They tell you that you are too sensitive, that you misunderstood their intentions, or that you are imagining problems that do not exist. Over time, You begin trusting their version of reality more than your own experiences. This is one of the most powerful forms of emotional control, because once a person loses confidence in their own perception, they become increasingly dependent on someone else for reassurance and direction. Another reason manipulation remains hidden is because it often mixes affection with control. Moments of warmth are scattered between moments of criticism, creating hope that the relationship will improve if you simply try harder. This cycle keeps many people trapped. They remember the kindness and overlook the harm, believing the good moments represent the person's true character, while the painful moments are only temporary mistakes. Unfortunately, this pattern is often intentional. Occasional kindness can become a reward that encourages someone to tolerate repeated disrespect. The invisible nature of manipulation also affects how others see the relationship. Friends, family members, or coworkers may only witness the charming side of the toxic person. They see generosity, confidence, and politeness, making it difficult to believe that the same individual behaves differently behind closed doors. As a result, the victim may feel isolated, fearing that no one will understand or believe their experience. This isolation strengthens the manipulator's influence because it reduces the likelihood of outside perspectives that could expose the unhealthy dynamic. Perhaps the most unsettling truth is that manipulation succeeds not because people are weak, but because they are compassionate. Kind, patient, and forgiving individuals often assume others share their good intentions. They look for reasons to understand instead of reasons to leave. They offer second chances because they believe people can change. These qualities are strengths in healthy relationships, but in the hands of a toxic person, they become opportunities for exploitation. Recognizing that manipulation is often invisible is the first step toward protecting your peace, preserving your confidence, and refusing to surrender your identity to someone who benefits from your self-doubt. The most dangerous warning signs are often the ones that never announce themselves. They do not appear as dramatic arguments or obvious insults. Instead, they quietly shape the emotional atmosphere around you until you begin accepting unhealthy behavior as normal. Recognizing these hidden signs early can save you from years of confusion, emotional exhaustion, and damaged self-esteem. Toxic people depend on subtlety because if their intentions were obvious, they would quickly lose their influence. The more invisible their tactics remain, the longer they can maintain control. The first hidden sign is that they constantly make you question yourself. After spending time with them, you often replay conversations in your mind, wondering if you overreacted, misunderstood, or somehow caused the problem. Even when you know your feelings are valid, their words leave you doubting your own judgment. Instead of resolving disagreements with honesty, they create uncertainty. You stop trusting your instincts and begin relying on their interpretation of every situation. This quiet erosion of self-confidence makes it easier for them to shape your decisions and emotions. The second sign is that their kindness always seems to come with invisible strings attached. At first, they may appear incredibly generous, supportive, or thoughtful. They help you, compliment you, or offer assistance when you need it most. But later, those acts of kindness become tools for control. They remind you of everything they have done for you whenever you disagree with them or set a boundary. Suddenly, what once felt like love begins to feel like a debt you can never repay. Genuine kindness expects nothing in return, while manipulation keeps a mental record of every favor, waiting for the perfect moment to collect. The third hidden sign is emotional inconsistency. One day they praise you, make you feel valued, and fill your life with warmth. The next day they become distant, cold, or critical without any clear explanation. This unpredictable behavior creates emotional instability. Instead of focusing on your own happiness, you become focused on winning back their approval. You analyze every word you say and every action you take, hoping to avoid upsetting them. Over time, your emotional well-being becomes tied to their changing moods rather than your own inner peace. The fourth sign is that they rarely accept responsibility for their actions. Whenever conflict arises, the blame somehow finds its way back to you or someone else. If they hurt your feelings, they insist you are too sensitive. If they break a promise, they claim circumstances forced them to do it. If they behave disrespectfully, they point to your mistakes as justification. Accountability is replaced with excuses, distractions, or accusations. Instead of resolving problems, they shift the spotlight until you feel guilty for bringing up the issue in the first place. These warning signs are easy to overlook because each one can appear harmless on its own. A single forgotten promise, one critical comment, or one moment of emotional distance may not seem alarming. However, when these patterns repeat over weeks, months, or even years, they reveal a deeper truth about the relationship. Healthy relationships encourage confidence, trust, and emotional safety. Toxic relationships leave you feeling anxious, uncertain, and emotionally drained. Recognizing these hidden signs does not mean judging every imperfect person as toxic. Everyone makes mistakes, has difficult days, and occasionally says the wrong thing. The difference lies in the pattern. Healthy people acknowledge their mistakes, apologize sincerely, and make genuine efforts to improve. Toxic individuals repeat the same harmful behaviors while convincing others that the problem lies everywhere except within themselves. Learning to notice these subtle patterns allows you to protect your emotional well-being before temporary discomfort grows into lasting emotional harm, giving you the clarity to choose relationships that nurture your confidence instead of quietly dismantling it. The moment you realize that your peace is more valuable than someone else's approval, your life begins to change. Many people remain trapped in toxic relationships not because they cannot see the harm, but because they fear the consequences of choosing themselves. They worry about being misunderstood, judged, or labeled as selfish. They convince themselves that enduring emotional pain is the price of being loyal, compassionate, or forgiving. Yet self-respect asks a different question. Why should protecting your well-being require an apology? Choosing yourself is not an act of rejection. It is an act of wisdom that reminds you your emotional health deserves the same care and protection as your physical health. One of the greatest strengths you can develop is learning to trust your instincts again. Toxic people often teach you to ignore your inner voice by constantly questioning your perceptions and feelings. Over time, you stop believing what you see and begin believing only what they tell you. Rebuilding self-trust starts with paying attention to how you feel after every interaction. Healthy relationships leave you feeling respected, encouraged, and emotionally safe even during disagreements. Toxic relationships leave you feeling drained, anxious, guilty, or uncertain without a clear reason. Those feelings are not weaknesses, they are signals. Your mind and heart often recognize unhealthy patterns long before you are ready to admit them. Setting boundaries becomes the next step in reclaiming your life. A boundary is not a wall designed to keep people out. It is a clear expression of what you will and will not accept. It tells others how you expect to be treated, while reminding yourself that your needs matter too. Toxic people often resist boundaries because boundaries limit their ability to manipulate. They may accuse you of changing, becoming cold, or caring less about the relationship. They may even attempt to make you feel guilty for saying no. But a person who truly respects you will also respect your limits. They may not always agree with them, but they will not punish you for having them. Choosing self-respect also means letting go of the belief that you can fix everyone. Many compassionate people stay in unhealthy relationships because they believe their love, patience, or sacrifice will eventually change the other person. While people are capable of growth, lasting change can only happen when someone genuinely accepts responsibility for their behavior. No amount of kindness can force another person to become honest, respectful, or emotionally mature. Carrying the responsibility for someone else's choices only leaves you exhausted while preventing them from facing the consequences of their actions. Another important part of protecting your peace is becoming comfortable with disappointing people. This can feel uncomfortable, especially if you have spent years trying to keep everyone happy. But every meaningful boundary disappoints someone who benefited from your lack of one. Not everyone will celebrate your growth. Some people preferred the version of you who never said no, never questioned unfair treatment, and always placed their needs before your own. Their disappointment does not mean you are making the wrong decision. It often means the relationship is adjusting to a healthier balance. As your confidence grows, you begin making decisions from a place of clarity rather than fear. You stop chasing approval because you recognize that your value does not increase when others validate you. You become less willing to explain your boundaries to those committed to misunderstanding them. Instead of reacting to every criticism, you choose where your energy belongs. You surround yourself with people who celebrate honesty instead of control, encouragement instead of manipulation, and mutual respect instead of emotional games. In doing so, you discover that peace is not something another person gives you. It is something you protect through the choices you make, the standards you keep, and the courage to walk away from anything that repeatedly asks you to sacrifice your dignity in exchange for temporary acceptance.